Hello, I'm John Motoviloff with the National Wild Turkey Federation, and we're here with Trout Unlimited to show you techniques for catching trout in streams.
I think you took the top and then I got them on the bottom. One of the nicest things about stream angling is you don't necessarily have to have waders and boots. You can have a box of flies, throw it in your pocket. You can have a spinning rod if that's how you choose to do it. And lots of access. You can just walk along the stream and fish. You know, if it's hot, lots of times it's a light pair of pants and a pair of tennis shoes or sandals or something like that, that you don't have to have hundreds of dollars worth of gear to get started. The way I learned how to fish was with the Zebco 202, push button, bobber, throw it out, watch the bobber, and you can easily do that for trout also. You have to watch your regulations, whether or not you can use worms or things like that, but you can use artificials. You can use little MEP spinners, trying to match minnows and things that are in the water that way. How I primarily fish is with a fly rod. That allows me to stand back away from the fish a long ways. And along with that, I use a leader that is invisible and long and light. And then I'm going to put a fly on that I'm going to hopefully present as naturally as possible to the fish so that I can trick it. If you're spin fishing, you're throwing a rooster tail and maybe you're going to start off going across and downstream and pull that up at you. If that's not working, you're going to look for some log structure or a deep hole and toss that in there and vary your retrieve. It might be a fast retrieve, it might be a slow, jerky retrieve. You want to imitate a wounded minnow or something that's struggling that looks to that fish like it's easy prey. Trout eat insects at all their life stages, from eggs to the nymphs to hatching up into the adults. There's minnows in the water, there's crayfish, there's frogs, tadpoles, so they're going to eat whatever they find. What I really like about stream trout fishing is the activity. You're constantly moving. You're not just sitting in one spot, you're walking along the stream. You know, you sit down and you hear the water running and you see the green and you hear the birds, and it's the whole package. It's not just fishing, it's all of it.
The difference with a fly rod versus your conventional rod or your spinning rod bait cast.
Trout Unlimited is an amazing organization. It's one of the largest, if it is the largest, cold water conservation organization in the United States. And they do so much habitat work and so much restoration work. But Trout Unlimited, as it gets involved with mentorship and as it gets involved with connecting people to the outdoors, is an opportunity to bring more people to that conservation work. Finding somebody to connect with in an outdoor space teaches you that being in the outdoors is more than just fishing. It's about community. It's about being connected to the outdoors itself.
The more resources that you can pull in the beginning will help you, or man, go out and just try it. Fail. And by failing, you're going to learn some things. And you might try some things that I've never tried just because you don't know not to try them.
Well, I can't believe how easy this is. If you can bobber fish, you can do what we did today, which is fish with a worm in a stream, because it's the same thing without a bobber.
So when you go fishing, typically, like you get here, do you know what types of flies you're planning on using today? Or you're going to go
At our fingertips, we have a wealth of information. You can type YouTube and how to fly fish. And there are a myriad of casting things. There's a myriad of trout fishing videos. Use your resources that you have available to you to increase your knowledge. There's 2 digital platforms that you can use to find locations to fish. Onyx is a hunter fisher. You can drop pins where you fished. You can find your locations. And then Trout Routes is a fishing specific app that you can use Both are paid subscriptions, I believe. But you can then drop your pins where you have fished. You can leave yourself notes. Both of them show you access points, but also collaborate with the DNR to make sure the easements and things are current. The gear that you need for fly fishing. You need a rod, you need a reel, you need a leader, and you need flies. Beyond that, if it's cold weather, you might need waders. Your fly rod, you can start at a kit. You get everything included, ready to fish. Or you can spend thousands of dollars on the rod and the reel and the line and probably not catch any more fish than on the $100 outfit that you can start off with. Fly fishing is funny in that we have a reel and the reel holds our line. Lots of times if you watch a fly fisherman, they are going to cast their line out and then strip that line in. We don't use the reel to reel in the line and then pull it out and cast it again. We keep all of that line out. So if I know how far I'm going to cast, I can cast it out, strip it in, then pick it up, cast it out again, strip it in again. If I catch a fish, I have my trigger finger is my brake on my fly line to stop, set the hook, and then the same thing. I'm going to strip in that line. With a fly rod, it's the plastic line, the fly line that we are going to cast. In order to cast, we have to have 10, 15 feet of that fly line out before we can even initiate a cast. It needs to have the weight of the fly line to pull it out. I have two parts of my cast. I have a back cast and I have a forward cast. So if I accelerate and stop, that fly line is going to go from in front of me to behind me. I want it to straighten out. Then I'm going to accelerate and stop so that fly line comes in front of me, straightens out, and then I can drift it down to the water and I'm ready to fish it. If you're going to use spinning gear, there's a number of different options for you to use. You probably want to use an ultralight rod, something that's going to have a sensitive tip so that you can feel the fish when it hits. You can use live bait. You could use spinners that are going to have a blade that rotates around. You could use jigs and hit the deep holes and find fish. Some of the other items you can use when you're trout fishing is you can have a vest. More recently, people have gone to a sling pack, which is usually goes over one shoulder. It's kind of like a backpack that goes behind you, that all of your gear is in that backpack, or a hip pack, which is kind of like a fanny pack. And what that is a tackle box, basically. So as you're walking the stream, you don't have a physical tackle box, you wear it on your back.
So this fly right
When you hit the stream, you want to look for places that are going to be likely spots for the trout to be. And where that usually is, behind rocks, behind structure. Fish don't want to get eaten. They don't want to get eaten by a hawk. They don't want to get eaten by a heron. So they're going to duck behind cover. They're going to lay low. The spots and things that are on fish are camouflage. Lots of times they're there. You can't see them. So if you stare into a pool and you watch for shadows, you'll see them. They're going to be in the area of least resistance. They want to be facing upstream with the conveyor belt of food coming right at them. So they're going to kind of hug the bottom where the water is not moving as quickly as it is on top. They might be at the head of a spring where cold water is coming into a creek system or a river system. They're going to be underneath bridges in the shadows because it's cooler there and they have some cover. They don't want you to find them, so you have to think like a predator. Where would be the best lie for this fish? And lots of times if I'm fishing, I'm going to hit the water fast. In areas that don't look productive, I'm going to blow through those, and I'm going to look for those riffles, runs, and then a deep pool, and I'm going to hit that deep pool. Like I you can use the sound of the water cover to cover your footfalls, and that way you can kind of sneak up and be stealthy and find those fish. Most of the trout that I catch, I'm going to practice catch and release. And that just simply means if I catch a fish, I'm going to take my fly out of its mouth. If I'm going to get a picture, I want to keep it wet. I'm going to get my hands wet, take a picture quick, get it back into the water. Lots of times I will cradle it into my hand, and when that fish is ready to swim off, it will just swim off. And that way, if it's a small fish, has a chance to grow. If it's a large fish, give somebody else a chance to catch that fish also. If you're going to keep trout, you're going to need some method to keep them. So you might have a cooler that you keep along the banks that has some ice in it if it's a nice hot toasty day. You might have a creel, which is either a canvas bag or a wicker basket that you can carry on your hip. Some people have a stringer that they use to keep the trout alive in the water until they're ready to harvest them. The biggest thing that I could say about regulations, wherever you're fishing, you need to know them. You need to have a license in order to fish. Every state has its own bag limits as far as what you can keep. Lots of states have size or slot limits for what you can keep. And it's your responsibility to know on the water that you are on what is legal. What can I keep? What can't I keep? What do I have to release? What is the slot limit? What is the bag limit? And in order to preserve this species, we have to take that into accordance, and we have to be stewards of that. There's also water regulations that vary from state to state. Some states are very liberal in their water, that the people own the water, and so you can access it at any bridge. They have the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, has purchased easements so that you can use those streams legally. In other places, the landowner, if the water is running through their land, they own the water, and you're not allowed to be on that. So you have to know where you are and whether or not you're legal. One of the things that we need to make sure of, though, is that we're respecting the landowner's property. That if we go through a gate, we make sure to shut the gate. If we're using worms and we have a worm container, that we take that worm container out with us. Lots of times if I'm on a stream and I see, garbage bags, I'm going to pick that up because I want to be a good steward, and I want to thank that landowner in this little way of picking up a little bit of trash. Just like there are bugs and bug life in our water systems, there's also invasive species in our waterways. And one of the ways that we transmit that from stream to stream is through our clothing, through our boots. So we can combat that by, when I get out of a stream, I take my hose and I take a brush and I scrub my boots as best as I can to get them clean of whatever I've stepped in. Trout need a couple of things to survive. They need cold, clean water. It needs to be highly oxygenated. Lots of times you'll see riffles, runs, pools, narrowing of the stream so that the water is oxygenated. Those are the places where the trout like to live. One of the neat things about trout is they live in beautiful places. Brook trout are a native to Wisconsin. They like cold, clean streams. They're eager players, so lots of times when you're fishing for them, they're going to come up and they're going to smash a fly. Lots of times around here, they're not necessarily big fish. An 8-inch brook trout is a pretty good brook trout here. Brown trout are also a beautiful species, but they're not native to this area. They're not native around the United States at all. They have been introduced from Europe. They're beautiful fighting fish. They grow to immense sizes. Rainbow trout are not native to this area. They're mostly found on the west coast. Cutthroat also are not going to be found in this area where I fish, but as we head west, when you hit Yellowstone area, you can get the greenback cutthroats, and some of the other western states you're gonna find cutthroat. These are cold, clean rivers, creeks, and the fish that live in them, are healthy fish. And brook trout are indicator species. If it's cold, clean water, brook trout are going to be there.
This is my first time coming to the Driftless, and it's really cool to be here, to see this watershed, and to be here as a mentor, and to be here getting other people who are from here out to do this is really special. But this watershed is amazing. It's a testament to Wisconsin, it's a testament to the DNR here, it's a testament to all the NGOs and to the citizens that push and work to keep this a pristine watershed. And so programs like this, these mentorship programs, if the folks who are out here today, if they left today with nothing more than, wow, that was a beautiful place. It needs to exist, it needs to be pristine, and they have an understanding that the way they vote, the way they look at energy consumption, all impacts these places, then I count that a check in the win box.
If you have a love for being outside, and if you have a love for interacting with your environment, then trout fishing is like the perfect thing.